Look, we all know AWS Generative AI is incredibly powerful, but all that genius comes with a price tag, right? With any new project, you've got to ask, how do we actually manage the cost? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down the essential cost trade-offs you really need to get a handle on.
And that's really the big question we're tackling here. It doesn't matter if you're an architect designing a whole new system or a developer building the next amazing app, understanding the economics is just as critical as the tech itself. So let's dive into how you can make the right financial calls for your project.
Okay, so our first major decision point is a classic one. You've probably faced it before. Do you want it fast or do you want it cheap? When we're talking about running AI models, this choice is front and center, and it all revolves around something called inference.
So you've basically got two main flavors here. On one side, you have real-time inference, and on the other, batch inference. Now, these are two totally different ways to get answers from your model, and honestly, choosing the right one can make or break your budget and your user's experience.
Okay, this table really lays out the choice perfectly. For real time, think about a chatbot. You need an answer right now. That instant response is everything, but that high responsiveness comes at a higher cost because you've got to have that infrastructure fired up and ready to go 24/7. Now, on the flip side, you have batch inference. This is perfect for stuff like generating a weekly sales report. It's not an emergency, right? You can just queue up the job, get the answer back later, and save a whole lot of money in the process. The key takeaway? You have to match your inference type to your business need.
All right, let's move on to our second big trade-off. It's not enough for your AI to be smart. It has to actually be there when your users need it. And this brings us to this critical balancing act between guaranteed availability and, you guessed it, the cost of that guarantee.
So, how do you make sure your app is always on? Well, the magic word here is redundancy. The idea is actually pretty simple. Don't have just one of anything important. By deploying your models across, say, multiple AWS regions, you're making sure that if one location has a problem, your application just keeps on chugging along from another one.
And this is where the trade-off really hits home. I mean, the pros are huge. You get high availability, you get fault tolerance, your users have a great, smooth experience. But the cons? They show up directly on your monthly bill. You're literally paying for double the infrastructure, and you're often paying extra for services like Amazon S3 to copy your data across those regions. It's really just an insurance policy, and you have to decide how much coverage you can truly afford. All right, let's get down to the brass tacks, the money. How do you actually pay for all this stuff? AWS gives you two main models, and which one you choose really depends on how predictable your workload is. So first up, you've got token-based pricing. You'll see this a lot with services like Amazon Bedrock. Just think of it as the ultimate pay-as-you-go plan. A token is basically a piece of a word, and you pay for exactly how many tokens your model chews through, both going in and coming out. This gives you amazing flexibility, especially when you have no idea what your usage is going to look like. But what if you know you're going to have a ton of traffic, and it's pretty steady? That's exactly where provisioned throughput comes in. With this model, you're basically reserving a dedicated chunk of processing power just for you, at a fixed price. It's always there, always ready, guaranteeing performance for a predictable amount of work. So let's put them side by side. Token-based pricing is all about that flexibility. It's perfect for workloads that go up and down. Provisioned throughput, on the other hand, is about reserved power. It usually comes at a higher but fixed cost, and it's the ideal choice for stable, high-volume apps where you just can't compromise on performance.
Oh, and here's a really important little nugget to remember. If you're going down the path of fine-tuning your own custom model in SageMaker or Bedrock, that process itself is a major cost. It is incredibly resource-intensive, so just make sure you budget for that right from the start.
Whew, okay, that was a lot to cover. So for anyone studying for a certification, or if you just want the absolute must-know points, this next part is for you. This is your blueprint.
All right, let's lock this in. Remember these 4 things. 1. Inference is a choice between fast and expensive real-time and slow and cheap batch. 2. Redundancy gets you high availability, but it'll cost you more. 3. For pricing, token-based gives you flexibility. And 4. Provisioned throughput gives you that guaranteed reserved power. If you can master these 4 points, you've pretty much mastered the core of GenAI economics on AWS.
So I want to leave you with a question to chew on. As you're planning your next generative AI project, which one of these trade-offs, speed, availability, or the pricing model, is going to be the most critical decision that you have to make? Seriously, thinking about that right now will save you a ton of time, money, and headaches down the road. Thanks for joining me.